see improvement. And the thing that I was most pleased about with each individual person on our team is that I saw that individual player development from the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year. And so now, I think with most of our guys, the biggest jump that you make is your first off season after playing your first season of college basketball. So I think that's where we are at this point in time. I'm seeing it. Now they need to display it on the court. I think the biggest thing that you can just change is like our guys' bodies. I think Fred Thomas played this past season at about 190 pounds, and now he's at 270 pounds. Chicken played this past season about 185 pounds, and now he's at 199 pounds. Gavin Ware is the opposite. He played last season at 275 and he's down to 263 with the ultimate goal of being 260 pounds. And then Trevonte Bloodman, I believe, was at 180 pounds and now he's at 190 pounds. So I think the way our guys have changed their bodies in the weight rooms gives them a chance now to be successful on the court.
Rick, how good is it just to have actual scholarship players practicing against your starters and practicing not assistant coaches?
Well, I take non-scholarship players compared to like just scholarship guys, but obviously it makes a difference because now you get a chance to get some competition in practice, and that's something we didn't get a chance to do was compete in practice 5-on-5. Now we broke down and competed against each other 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and 3-on-3, but we really didn't get that true competition on a day-to-day basis with the 5-on-5. So I think it's going to be a huge help.
Kind of having those extra bodies, how much are you able to actually play the way you want to play?
Well, I think we're going to play faster this year. I think we're going to be able to pressure more this year. But it's got to be successful, and that's what I tell our guys. I want a fast break and I want to play fast, but we've got to reduce our turnovers in order to do that. At the same point in time on the defensive end, I want to pressure more, but we can't have the breakdowns that we have defensively. So it depends on how much success we have doing those things will determine how much we amp it up in each department.
How easy is it for guys, talking to Chicken and Gavin about it, they wanted to leave last year, but as freshmen they're always kind of hesitant. He said it's kind of easier being sophomores, easier said than done, but they feel more comfortable being able to leave this year.
Well, I think first and foremost with that leadership is those guys being comfortable with what they are on the team. I think at times, like with Chicken or Fred or those guys that are sophomores now, they didn't know what was going on as freshmen. So I think it's kind of hard to have some leadership qualities when you don't know what's going on. So I think just those guys' familiarity with the program and what we're trying to do helps those guys hopefully be better leaders.
How different are you going into your second year?
Oh, I'm a year older. I don't know if I'm a year wiser, so we go from there.
Do you feel that enthusiasm on the practice floor? I mean, I've heard a lot of guys just say, hey, look, it can't get any worse than it was last year from a body standpoint and from just an endurance standpoint of what we had to go through. It can't get any worse. It can only get better.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I mean, there is a possibility that we could have less wins and have more injuries.
Right.
No one knows that for sure. So you would hope that there's not going to be any possible way that we could have more, obstacles than we had the previous year. But, I always say to our guys, it's really hard for you just to say, like, I'm a year older, so I'm a year better. It's like, what type of work did you put in the offseason in order to be better? I think we have a situation where some guys just assume that just because they're going from freshmen to sophomores, they're going to be better, that they're going to be bigger and stronger. It's the work that you put in doing that will determine if you're going to be a better basketball player and a better team. And that remains to be seen. I think our guys have a really good offseason. I think guys have individually had a good offseason. But until you go out there and display it on the court and by producing some wins, then you don't know.
With last year, the way Colin finished the year, how much is having that kind of stretch forward in your offense make it work a lot smoother?
Well, I think Colin was arguably our best player down the stretch. I believe in the last 10 games, he averaged about 14.5 points and 7.5 rebounds. And I think with junior college kids, it takes them about a semester to figure out where their lot is on the team. And I think Colin started to figure that out and took advantage of it. So now the key is the way Colin played the last 10 games of the season, he needs to play that way the whole season or it doesn't mean anything. I think Colin has done a good job with his body. We didn't want him to gain weight. We wanted him to stay about where he was, but just kind of tone up and get stronger, and I think he's done that. So, we need Colin to be successful in order for our team to be successful.
How has Wendell's rehab gone, and how did he handle the offseason?
Well, he had the unfortunate situation where he had to go back and have the second surgery, so that set back his rehab. But as far as like what he was supposed to do with the rehab from the doctor standpoint, the athletic trainer standpoint, I think he did what he was supposed to do.
I know he
Trevante
can't
said
play
that.
this year, but Falou and IJ coming in, what have you seen from both of them so far?
Well, I tell you what, the one thing that I covered is like guys having a work ethic. And the guys' work ethic with IJ and Falou has been tremendous. I mean, Falou, besides Jawan Johnson, of guys that I've coached in my tenure, he's the fastest guy that I've ever seen as far as like that, and also with the endurance. So, Falou is going to be a good player. And I think this setting out has been painful for him because he wants to play right away. But at the end of the day, I think Falou will have a chance to be from a guy who was 210 pounds when he came in to 240 pounds. And a guy that's going to develop in our program. So when he hits the floor as a first-time freshman, he'll be able to make a huge impact for us. And I think IJ's character and his will to win and his leadership are going to be huge advantages for us. And then obviously we needed a point guard. We needed a guy who can handle the basketball against freshmen and do a good job out on the court. So I really believe that IJ is going to be a huge impact on our team right away because he just wants to win. He has a will to win.
You look back at last year, just from maybe a percentage ballpark, what were you able to do offensively and defensively that you came here wanting to do?
Oh, I think it was a small percentage. It's hard for me to put a number on at this point in time, but just getting guys to pick up on concepts of what you want defensively. I think it's so hard for guys like Chicken and Fred to just be disciplined at times defensively. They just got into the standpoint of like us wanting to play hard defensively, meaning they had to steal the ball, And I think sometimes just getting guys to honor their assignments is really important. So, I can't put a number on it, but I can tell you this: I think will be much improved as far as like just from a knowledge standpoint of what I want, what the coaching staff wants, and I think that's pretty important.
Trevante said that win or lose, he wants teams to leave the game saying, "Man, that was a tough team." How do you establish that?
Well, we've talked about this before as far as like our playing mantra. We want guys to play harder than the other team, play tougher than the other team, and play smarter than the other team. I think for the most part, every time we set foot on the court, I thought we played harder than the other team. I thought because of from a physicality standpoint, sometimes we just couldn't play tougher than the other team. Like when we played our last game against Tennessee, I just thought those guys had just too many big bodies that we couldn't handle. I didn't think that we succumbed to it, but I just thought that hey, they had bigger, mature bodies and they played tougher than us. And then obviously with our turnover ratio and the fact that we took bad shots, we didn't play smarter than the other team a lot of times. So I think if we can focus in on those things continually, I think we'll have a chance.
Talking to Craig a moment ago, he said, and we agreed that what he and Fred and the freshmen went through last year, obviously it wasn't what they planned, what they wanted, but in the roundabout way, it makes them stronger for their careers than maybe if they had not been tested that way.
Well, I think the one thing that they got that a lot of freshmen don't get is opportunity. You can't say that they didn't come into a situation where they didn't get an opportunity. And now what they do with that opportunity remains to be seen, that they learn from those opportunities. And hopefully that comes to fruition on the court, but by the way they play. I think, Fred Thomas is going to be a good player because it has a high ceiling. And I think if I had to give out an award for who improved the most this offseason, I would give it to Fred Thomas because I think he did an unbelievable job as far as changing his body and buying into it. He can lift all the weights that he wants to lift, but unless he changes his eating habits, and that's what he did. He ate 6 times a day. We can't be on him 24 hours a day just watching his caloric intake. And so what he did was he bought into it. And so I told him, you can lift all you want to with Coach Akins until you put some more fuel into your body, you're not going to gain weight. And to his credit, he did that. So, when you see guys taking those steps, it shows that they care. And if they care, then you have a chance to have a good team.
With what the team endured last year, how much can it be said that it meant to win 3 of their last 5, to win on the big stage, SEC tournament, to beat their arch rival, to give them a good feeling bouncing into the second year?
Well, I thought it was huge. The one thing that you never want lacking from your team is enthusiasm. And so I think that's really important. We want to make sure that when we go into a practice situation, when we go into the off season, when we go into a game, I want our guys to play with some exuberance and enthusiasm for the game of basketball. And I think if you don't have that, you really don't have a chance to win.
Travis Bernardo was back here a few weeks ago. Did he work out? What does that kind of mean to the team? And NBA champion kind of came back and worked out.
Well, I tell you what, it's huge because you look up there and you see a huge mural of a guy who broke the NCAA record for blocked shots. And then you also have the chance, and anytime you mention NBA with college players, it gives them an immediate street cred, you know. So having Bernardo back in here, and I tell you what, he was very complimentary to Gavin and also to Falou about how much of a chance they have to be a good basketball player. And so I thought that was really huge for him to come back and participate in some individual workouts, work out with our guys, playing some open gym, but also have some positive remarks about Gavin and Falou about their chance to be good basketball players.
Last year, out of necessity, you had to almost turn guys loose, maybe to play a little more unstructured than you like. And guys enjoyed playing, 4 and 5 roles like they did in high school. But now, Craig said he might kind of welcome being trimmed down to maybe no more than 2 jobs in one game or something. But do you see some of that and yet still leave the freedom of your motion type offense?
Well, I think the most important thing that we want our guys to have is individual freedom. We want our guys to have the ability to go out and make plays. I think a lot of times, like, we focus in too much on what this set play is and what that coach designed. To me, all I want to do is I want to give our guys an individual freedom, and it's my job to give them space and opportunity to go make plays. Now, the whole key to that is, like, what do you do with that freedom, all right? You can't be a selfish player with that freedom. If you can beat your man one-on-one, we want you to do that every single time. I say every single cut that you make, every single screen that you come off of, is to score, all right? Now, once you draw help, what do? All right, what type of person are you? Are the type of guy that kicks out to the open man to three-point line? If Gavin is open down low because the defense helped up, and you dump it down to him. So now you have that power, and that's all we work on our individual skill development, is being able to break your man down one-on-one, whether it be in the post, perimeter, or what have you. But now that you have this power, how do you yield that power?
Last one.
If maybe it wasn't the way you wanted those guys to get the experience, but they got the experience in all of those guards playing in the post and forwards playing in the wings. So now they go in the year, at least the season experience, and know they can do something of everything.
Yeah, and I think that's what you want. You want a guy who's a complete basketball player. You know, for all the attributes that Michael Jordan had as a guard and a perimeter player, at the end of the day, he scored the most in the post, after his first few years in the basketball league. And so, I think sometimes guys, like when I talked to Fred Thomas about using his length in the post and having some post-up opportunities, those guys kind of look down on it. And then you would say, hey, like Michael Jordan, like the greatest basketball player of all time, scored a majority of his points down the stretch in the post. So, you want to make sure guys are developing a total game.
Rick, I know it's only September, but have you talked to Durumia about his plan to help you guys somehow, some way?
He's playing football, I'll let him be. Focus in on football.
All right, thanks.